But when the merciful Elohim saw that Satan wished to kill Adam with his many tricks, and saw that Adam was meek and without guile, Elohim spoke to Satan in a loud voice, and cursed him. 30. Adam and Eve 1. Then he and his hosts fled, and Adam and Hawwah remained standing on the top of the mountain. From there they saw below them the wide world, high above which they were. But they saw none of the host which time after time were by them. They cried, both Adam and Hawwah, before Elohim, and begged for forgiveness of him. Then the word from Elohim came to Adam, and said to him, You must know and understand concerning this Satan, that he seeks to deceive you and your descendants after you. And Adam cried before hawwah Elohim, and begged and prayed to him to give him something from the garden, as a token to him, wherein to be comforted. And Elohim considered Adam's thought, and sent the messenger Michael as far as the sea that reaches India, to take from their golden rods and bring them to Adam. This Elohim did in his wisdom in order that these golden rods, being with Adam in the cave, should shine forth with light in the night around him, and put an end to his fear of the darkness. Then the messenger Michael went down by Elohim's order, took golden rods, as Elohim had commanded him, and brought them to Elohim. 30. After these things, Elohim commanded the messenger Gabriel to go down to the garden and say to the cherub who kept it, Behold, Elohim has commanded me to come into the garden, and to take from it sweet-smelling incense and give it to Adam. Then the messenger Gabriel went down by Elohim's order to the garden and told the cherub as Elohim had commanded him. The cherub then said, This is acceptable. And Gabriel went in and took the incense. Then Elohim commanded his messenger Raphael to go down to the garden, and speak to the cherub about some myrrh to give to Adam. 31. 1 Adam and Hawwah. And the messenger Raphael went down and told the cherub as Elohim had commanded him, and the cherub said, This is acceptable. Then Raphael went in and took the myrrh. The golden rods were from the Indian Sea, where there are precious stones. The incense was from the eastern border of the garden, and the myrrh from the western border, from where bitterness came over Adam. And the messengers brought these things to Elohim, by the tree of High, in the garden. Then Elohim said to the messengers, Dip them in the spring of water, then take them and sprinkle their water over Adam and Hawwah, that they should be a little comforted in their sorrow, and give them to Adam and Hawwah. And the messengers did as Elohim had commanded them, and they gave all those things to Adam and Hawwah on the top of the mountain on which Satan had placed them, when he sought to make an end of them. And when Adam saw the golden rods, the incense and the myrrh, he rejoiced and cried because he thought that the gold was a token of the rain from where he had come and the incense was a token of the bright light which had been taken from him. And that the myrrh was a token of the sorrow which he was in. 31. After these things happened, Elohim said to Adam, You asked me for something from the garden to be comforted with, and I have given you these 3 tokens as a consolation to you so that you trust in me and in my covenant with you. For my Ben will come and save you, and when he is in the flesh, sovereigns shall bring him gold, incense, and myrrh. Gold is a token of my reign, incense is a token of my divinity, and myrrh is a token of my Ben's suffering and of my Ben's death. 32. Adam and Eve 1. But, Adam, put these by you in the cave, the gold so that it may shine light over you by night, the incense so that you smell its sweet savor, and the myrrh to comfort you in your sorrow. When Adam heard these words from Elohim, he worshipped before him. He and Hawwah worshipped him and gave him thanks because he had dealt mercifully with them. Then Elohim commanded the 3 messengers, Michael, Gabriel and Raphael, each to bring what he had brought and give it to Adam. And they did so, one by one. And Elohim commanded Sariel and Salathiel to bear up Adam and Hawwah, and bring them down from the top of the high mountain, and to take them to the cave of treasures. There they laid the gold on the south side of the cave, the incense on the eastern side, and the myrrh on the western side. For the mouth of the cave was on the north side. The messengers then comforted Adam and Hawwah, and departed. The gold was 70 rods. The incense was 12 pounds, and the myrrh was 3 pounds. These remained by Adam in the cave of treasures, in the house of treasures, therefore was it called, cave of concealment. And it was called the cave of treasures, by reason of the bodies of righteous men that were in it. Elohim gave these 3 things to Adam on the 3rd day after he had come out of the garden as a sign of the 3 days FWHY should remain in the heart of the earth. And these 3 things, as they continued with Adam in the cave, gave him light by night, and by day they gave him a little relief from his sorrow. 32. And Adam and Hawwah remained in the cave of treasures until the 7th day. They neither ate of the fruit of the earth, nor drank water. 33. 1 Adam and Hawwah. And on the 8th day, when it dawned, Adam said to Hawwah, Hawwah, we prayed Elohim to give us something from the garden, and he sent his messengers who brought us what we had desired. But now, get up, and let us go to the sea of water we saw at first, and let us stand in it and pray that Elohim will again be favorable to us and take us back to the garden, or give us something, or that he will give us comfort in some other land than this one we are in. Then Adam and Hawwah came out of the cave and went and stood on the border of the sea in which they had thrown themselves before. Then Adam said to Hawwah, Come, go down into this place, and do not come out until the end of 30 days, when I shall come to you. And pray to Elohim with burning heart and a sweet voice to forgive us. And I will go to another place, and go down into it and do like you. Then Hawwah went down into the water as Adam had commanded her. Adam also went down into the water, and they stood praying, and besought hawwah to forgive them their offense and to restore them to their former state. And they stood like that praying until the end of the 35 days. 33. But Satan, the hater of all that is good, sought them in the cave, but did not find them, although he searched diligently for them. But he found them standing in the water praying, and thought within himself, Adam and Hawwah are standing like that in that water praying to Elohim to forgive them their transgression, and to restore them to their former state, and to take them from under my hand. But I will deceive them so that they shall come out of the water, and not fulfill their vow. Then the hater of all that is good did not go to Adam, but he went to Hawwah, and took the form of a. 34. Adam and Eve 1. Messenger of Elohim, praising and rejoicing, and he said to her, Peace be to you, be glad and rejoice, Elohim is favorable to you, and he sent me to Adam. I have brought him the glad tidings of deliverance and of his being filled with bright light as he was at first. And Adam, in his joy for his restoration, has sent me to you so that you would come with me in order that I might crown you with light like him. And he said to me, Speak to Hawwah, if she does not come with you, tell her of the sign when we were on the top of the mountain, how Elohim sent his messengers who took us and brought us to the cave of treasures, and laid the gold on the southern side, incense on the eastern side, and myrrh on the western side. Now come to him. When Hawwah heard these words from him, she rejoiced much. And thinking Satan's appearance was real, she came out of the sea. He went first and she followed him until they came to Adam. Then Satan hid himself from her and she saw him no more. She then came and stood before Adam, who was standing by the water, and she rejoiced in Elohim's forgiveness. And as she called to him, he turned around and found her there and cried when he saw her, and beat his chest from the bitterness of his grief. He sank into the water. But Elohim looked at him and at his misery, and that he was about to breathe his last breath. And the word of Elohim came from the Shamaim, raised him out of the water, and said to him, Go up the high bank to Hawwah. And when he came up to Hawwah, he said to her, Who told you to come here? Then she told him the discourse of the messenger who had appeared to her and had given her a sign. 35. 1 Adam and Hawwah. But Adam grieved, and explained to her that it was Satan. He then took her and they both returned to the cave. These things happened to them the second time they went down to the water 7 days after their coming out of the garden. They fasted in the water 35 days. It was altogether 42 days since they had left the garden. 34. On the morning of the 43rd day, they came out of the cave, sorrowful and crying. Their bodies were lean, and they were parched from hunger and thirst, from fasting and praying, and from their heavy sorrow because of their transgression. And when they had come out of the cave, they went up the mountain to the west of the garden. There they stood and prayed and asked Elohim to grant them forgiveness of their sins. And after their prayers Adam began to beg Elohim, saying, O hawwah, my Elohim, and my Creator, you commanded the 4 elements to be gathered together, and they were gathered together by your order. Then you spread your hand and created me out of 1 element, that of dust of the earth. You brought me into the garden at the 3rd hour, on a 6th day, and informed me of it in the cave. Then, at first, I knew neither night nor day, because I had a bright nature so that the light in which I lived ever left me to know night or day. Then, again, hawwah, in that third hour in which you created me, you brought to me all beasts, and lions, and ostriches, and fowls of the air, and all things that move in the earth, which you had created at the first hour before me of the sixth day. And your will was that I should name them all, one by one, with a suitable name. But you gave me understanding and knowledge and a pure heart and a 36. Adam and Eve 1. Right mind from you, that I should name them after your own mind regarding the naming of them. O Elohim, you made them obedient to me and ordered that not one of them break from my control according to your commandment and to the dominion which you had given me over them. But now they are all estranged from me. Then it was in that third hour of sixth day, in which you created me, and commanded me concerning the tree, to which I was neither to go near, nor to eat from, because you said to me in the garden, when you eat of it, from death you shall die. But if you had punished me as you said, with death, I should have died that very moment. When you commanded me regarding the tree, that I was neither to approach nor to eat of it, Hawwah was not with me. You had not yet created her, neither had you yet taken her out of my side, so had she yet heard this order from you. Then, at the end of the third hour of that sixth day, hawwah, you caused a sleep to come over me, and I slept, and was overwhelmed in sleep. Then you took a rib out of my side and you created her after my own likeness and image. Then I awoke, and when I saw her and knew who she was, I said, this is bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. From now on she shall be called woman. It was of your goodwill, O Elohim, that you brought a sleep over me and that you quickly drew Hawwah out of my side until she was fully out, so that I did not see how she was made, neither could I witness. O hawwah, your goodness and glory are awful and great. And of your goodwill, O hawwah, you made us both with bodies of a bright nature, and you made the two of us one. You gave us your grace and filled us with praises of the Ruach HaKodesh, that we should be neither hungry nor thirsty nor know what sorrow is, nor know faintness of heart, neither suffering, fasting nor weariness. 37. 1 Adam and Hawwah. But now, O Elohim, since we transgressed your commandment and broke your Torah, you have brought us out into a strange land, and have caused suffering, faintness, hunger and thirst to come over us. Now, therefore, O Elohim, we pray you, give us something to eat from the garden, to satisfy our hunger with it, and something wherewith to quench our thirst. For, behold, many days, O Elohim, we have tasted nothing and drunk nothing, and our flesh has dried up and our strength is wasted. Sleep is gone from our eyes from faintness and crying. Then, O Elohim, we dare not gather anything from the fruit of trees, from fear of you. For when we transgressed the first time you spared us and did not make us die. But now, we thought in our hearts that if we eat the fruit of the trees without Elohim's order he will destroy us this time and will remove us from the earth. And if we drink of this water without Elohim's order he will make an end of us and root us up at once. Now, therefore, O Elohim, I have come to this place with Hawwah, and we beg you to give us some fruit from the garden so that we may be satisfied with it. For we desire the fruit that is on the earth and all else that we lack in it. 35. Then Elohim looked again at Adam and his crying and groaning, and the word of Elohim came to him, and said to him, Adam, when you were in my garden, you knew neither eating nor drinking, faintness nor suffering, leanness of flesh, nor change. Neither did sleep depart from your eyes. But since you transgressed and came into this strange land all these trials have come over you. 36. Then Elohim commanded the cherub, who guarded the gate of the garden with a sword of fire in his hand, to take some of the fruit of the fig tree and to give it to Adam. 38. Adam and Eve 1. The cherub obeyed the command of hawwah Elohim and went into the garden and brought 2 figs on 2 twigs, each fig hanging to its leaf. They were from 2 of the trees among which Adam and Hawwah hid themselves when Elohim went to walk in the garden, and the word of Elohim came to Adam and Hawwah and said to them, Adam, Adam, where are you? And Adam answered, O Elohim, here I am. When I heard the sound of you and your voice, I hid myself, because I am naked. Then the cherub took 2 figs and brought them to Adam and Hawwah. But he threw the figs to them from a distance because they would not come near the cherub, for their flesh that could not come near the fire. At first, messengers trembled at the presence of Adam and were afraid of him. But now Adam trembled before the messengers and was afraid of them. Then Adam came closer and took one fig, and Hawwa also came in turn and took the other. And as they took them up in their hands they looked at them and knew they were from the trees among which they had hidden themselves. 37. Then Adam said to Hawwa, "Do you not see these figs and their leaves with which we covered ourselves when we were stripped of our bright nature? But now, we do not know what misery and suffering may come to us from eating them. Now, therefore, Hawwa, let us restrain ourselves and not eat them. Let us ask Elohim to give us of the fruit of the tree of high." So Adam and Hawwa restrained themselves and did not eat these figs. But Adam began to pray to Elohim and to beg him to give him of the fruit of the tree of high, saying, "O Elohim, when we transgressed your commandment at the 6th hour of 6th day, we were stripped of the bright nature we had, and did not continue in the garden after our transgression more than 3 hours. 39. 1 Adam and Hawwa. But in the evening you made us come out of it. O Elohim, we transgressed against you 1 hour and all these trials and sorrows have come over us until this day. And those days together with this the 43rd days do not redeem that 1 hour in which we transgressed. O Elohim, look at us with an eye of pity, and do not avenge us according to our transgression of your commandment in your presence. O Elohim, give us of the fruit of the tree of high that we may eat it and live and turn not to see sufferings and other trouble in this earth, for you are Elohim. When we transgressed your commandment you made us come out of the garden and sent a cherub to keep the tree of high so that we should not eat thereof and live and know nothing of faintness after we transgressed. But now, O hwhy, behold, we have endured all these days and have borne sufferings. Make these 43 days an equivalent for the 1 hour in which we transgressed. 38. After these things the word of Elohim came to Adam, and said to him, Adam, as to the fruit on the tree of high that you have asked for, I will not give it to you now, but only when the 5,500 years are fulfilled. At that time I will give you fruit from the tree of high and you will eat and live forever, both you and Hawwa, and also your righteous descendants. But these 43 days cannot make amends for the hour in which you transgressed my commandment. Adam, I gave you the fruit of the fig tree in which you hid yourself for you to eat. So, you and Hawwa go and eat it. I will not deny your request, neither will I disappoint your hope. Therefore, endure until the fulfillment of the covenant I made with you. 40. Adam and Eve 1. And Elohim withdrew his word from Adam. 39. Then Adam returned to Hawwa and said to her, Get up, and take a fig for yourself, and I will take the other, and let us go to our cave. Then Adam and Hawwa each took a fig and went toward the cave. The time was about the setting of the sun and their thoughts made them long to eat of the fruit. But Adam said to Hawwa, I am afraid to eat of this fig, I do not know what may come over me from it. So Adam cried and stood praying before Elohim saying, Satisfy my hunger, without my having to eat this fig, because after I have eaten it, what will it profit me? And what shall I desire and ask of you, O Elohim, when it is gone? And he said again, I am afraid to eat of it, for I do not know what will befall me through it. 40. Then the word of Elohim came to Adam and said to him, Adam, why didn't you have this trepidation, or this will to fast, or this care before now? And why didn't you have this fear before you transgressed? But when you came to live in this strange land your animal body could not survive on earth without earthly food to strengthen it and to restore its powers. And Elohim withdrew his word from Adam. 41. Then Adam took the fig and laid it on the golden rods. Hawwa also took her fig and put it on the incense. And the weight of each fig was that of a watermelon, for the fruit of the garden was much larger than the fruit of this land. But Adam and Hawwa remained standing and fasting the entirety of that night until the morning dawned. When the sun rose they were still praying, but after they had finished praying Adam said to Hawwa. 41. 1 Adam and Hawwa. Hawwa, come, let us go to the border of the garden looking south to the place from where the river flows and is parted into 4 heads. There we will pray to Elohim and ask him to give us some of the water of high to drink. For Elohim has not fed us with the tree of high in order that we may not live. Therefore, we will ask him to give us some of the water of high to quench our thirst with it, rather than with a drink of water of this land. When Hawwah heard these words from Adam, she agreed, and they both got up and came to the southern border of the garden, at the edge of the river of water a short distance from the garden. And they stood and prayed before hawwah, and asked him to look at them and for this one time to forgive them, and to grant them their request. After this prayer from both of them, Adam began to pray with his voice before Elohim, and said, O hawwah, when I was in the garden and saw the water that flowed from under the tree of high, my heart did not desire, neither did my body require to drink of it. I did not know thirst, because I was living, and above that which I am now. So that in order to live I did not require any food of high nor did I need to drink of the water of high. But now, O Elohim, I am dead and my flesh is parched with thirst. Give me of the water of high that I may drink of it and live. O Elohim, through your mercy save me from these plagues and trials, and bring me into another land different from this. Let me live in your garden. 42. Then the word of Elohim came to Adam, and said to him, Adam, you said, bring me into a land where there is rest. Another land than this will not bring you rest. It is the reign of the Shamayim alone where there is rest. But you cannot enter into it at present, but only after your judgment is past and fulfilled. 42. Adam and Eve 1. Then will I make you go up into the reign of the Shamayim, you and your righteous descendants, and I will give you and them the rest you ask for now. And if you said, give me of the water of high that I may drink and live, it cannot be this day, but on the day that my ben shall descend into Gehinnom, and break the gates of brass, and crush into pieces the reins of iron. Then I will, through mercy, save your soul and the souls of the righteous, and thus give them rest in my garden. That shall be when the end of the world is come. And the water of high you seek will not be granted you this day, but on the day that my ben shall shed his blood on your head in the land of Golgotha. For blood of my ben shall be the water of high unto thee, at that time, and not to thee alone, but unto all those of thy seed who shall believe in me, that it be unto them for rest forever. The hawwah said again to Adam, Adam, when you were in the garden these trials did not come to you. But since you transgressed my commandment, all these sufferings have covered you. Now, also, your flesh requires food and drink. So drink then of that water that flows by you on the face of the earth. Then Elohim withdrew his word from Adam. And Adam and Hawwah worshipped hawwah, and returned from the river of water to the cave. It was noon when they drew near to the cave, they saw a large fire by it. 43. Then Adam and Hawwah were afraid, and stood still. And Adam said to Hawwah, What is that fire by our cave? We have done nothing in it to cause this fire. We neither have bread to bake, nor broth to cook there. We have never known anything like this fire, and we do not know what to call it. But ever since Elohim sent the cherub with a sword of fire that flashed in his hand and had lightning coming. 43. 1 Adam and Hawwah. From it we fell down and were like corpses from fear and we have not seen the like. But now, Hawwah, look, this is the same fire that was in the cherub's hand, which Elohim has sent to keep the cave in which we live. O Hawwah, it is because Elohim is angry with us and will drive us from it. Hawwah, we have transgressed his commandment again in that cave, so that he had sent this fire to burn around it and prevent us from going into it. If this is really the case, Hawwah, where shall we live? And where shall we flee to be away from the face of hawwah? Since, like it is with the garden, he will not let us live in it, and he has deprived us of the good things of it. But he has placed us in this cave, in which we have endured darkness, tests and hardships until at last we have found comfort in it. But now that he has brought us out into another land, who knows what may happen in it? And who knows but that the darkness of that land may be far greater than the darkness of this land? Who knows what may happen in that land by day or by night? And who knows whether it will be far or near, Hawwah? Do you think it will please Elohim to put us far from the garden, Hawwah? Where will Elohim put us to prevent us from beholding him, because we have transgressed his commandment, and because we have made requests of him all the time? Hawwah, if Elohim will bring us into a strange land other than this, in which we find consolation, it must be to put our souls to death, and blot out our name from the face of the earth. O Hawwah, If we are further alienated from the garden and from Elohim, where shall we find him again, and ask him to give us gold, incense, myrrh, and some fruit of the fig tree? 44. Adam and Eve 1. Where shall we find him to comfort us a second time? Where shall we find him so that he may think of us regarding the covenant he has made on our behalf? Then Adam said nothing else more. And they kept looking, he and Hawwah, towards the cave, and at the fire that flared up around it. But that fire was from Satan. For he had gathered trees and dry grasses, and had carried and brought them to the cave, and had set fire to them, in order to consume the cave and what was in it. So that Adam and Hawwah should be left in sorrow, and he should cut off their trust in Elohim, and make them deny him. But by the mercy of Elohim he could not burn the cave because Elohim sent his messenger to the cave to guard it from this fire, until it went out. And this fire lasted from noon until the break of the next day. That was the 45th day. 44. Adam and Hawwah stood, looking at the fire and were unable to come near the cave from their fear of the fire. And Satan kept on bringing trees and throwing them into the fire until the flames of the fire rose up very high and covered the entire cave, thinking in his mind, to consume the cave with the great fire. But the messenger of hawwah was guarding it. But he could not curse Satan nor wound him by word because he had no authority over him, neither did he attempt to do so with words from his mouth. Therefore the messenger tolerated him without uttering a bad word against him, until the word of Elohim came to Satan saying, "Go away from here at once before you deceive my servants, for this time you seek to destroy them. Were it not for my mercy I would have destroyed you and your hosts from off the earth. But I have had patience with you until the end of the world." 45. 1 Adam and Hawwah. Then Satan fled from before hawwah. But the fire went on burning around the cave like a coal fire the entire day. This was the 46th day that Adam and Hawwah had spent since they came out of the garden. And when Adam and Hawwah saw that the heat of the fire had began to cool down, they started to walk toward the cave to get into it as they usually did, but they could not because of the heat of the fire. Then they both began crying because the fire separated them from the cave, and the fire came toward them, burning, and they were afraid. Then Adam said to Hawwah, "See this fire of which we have a portion within us. It formerly obeyed us, but it no longer does so now, for we have violated the boundaries of creation and changed our condition, and our nature has been altered. But the fire is not changed in its nature, nor altered from its creation. Therefore it now has power over us, and when we come near it, it scorches our flesh." 45. Then Adam rose and prayed to Elohim, saying, "This fire has separated us from the cave in which you have commanded us to live, and now, we cannot go into it." Then Elohim heard Adam, and sent him his word, that said, "Adam, see this fire. It is different from the flame and heat from the garden of delights and the good things in it. When you were under my control all creatures yielded to you, but after you transgressed my commandment they all rose up over you." Elohim said again to him, "Adam, see how Satan has exalted you. He has deprived you of the Almighty and of an exalted state like me, and has not kept his word to you but has ended up to become your enemy. He is the one who made this fire in which he meant to burn you and Hawwah." 46. Adam and Eve 1. Adam, why has he not kept his agreement with you even one day, but has deprived you of the glory that was on you when you obeyed his command? Adam, do you think that he loved you when he made this agreement with you? Do you think that he loved you and wished to raise you on high? No, Adam, he did not do anything out of love for you. He wished to force you to come out of light and into darkness, and from an exalted state to degradation, and from glory to this humble state, from joy to sorrow, and from rest to hunger and fainting. Elohim also said to Adam, "See this fire kindled by Satan around your cave. See this curious thing that surrounds you. Know that it will surround both you and your descendants when you obey his command, and he will plague you with fire, and you will go down into Gehenna after you are dead. Then, you will experience the burning of his fire that will surround you and your descendants. You will not be delivered from it until my Ben's coming. Just as you cannot go into your cave right now because of the great fire around it, a way for you will not be made for you until my word comes on the day my covenant is fulfilled. There is no way for you at present to come from this life to rest until he who is my word comes. Then he will make a way for you, and you shall have rest. Then Elohim called to the fire that burned around the cave with his word, that it split itself in half until Adam passed through it. Then the fire parted itself by Elohim's order and a way was made for Adam. And Elohim withdrew his word from Adam. 46. Then Adam and Hawwah began again to come into the cave. And when they came to the passage in the midst of the fire, Satan blew into the fire like a whirlwind and caused the burning coal fire to cover Adam and Hawwah so that their bodies were singed and the coal fire burned their skin. 47. 1 Adam and Hawwah. Adam and Hawwah screamed from the burning of the fire, and said, "Ohwhy, save us. Do not leave us to be consumed and plagued by this burning fire. Do not require us as the payment for having transgressed your commandment." Then Elohim looked at their bodies on which Satan had caused fire to burn. Elohim sent his messenger that held back the burning fire. But the wounds remained on their bodies. Then Elohim said to Adam, "See Satan's love for you. He pretended to give you the Almighty and greatness, and now look, he burns you with fire and seeks to destroy you from off the earth. Then look at me, Adam. I created you, and how many times have I delivered you out of his hand? If not, wouldn't he have destroyed you?" Elohim spoke again, this time to Hawwah and said, "He promised you in the garden, saying, as soon as you eat from the tree, your eyes will be opened, and you shall become like Elohim, knowing good and evil. But look, he has burned your bodies with fire and has made you taste the taste of fire, in exchange for the taste of the garden. He has made you see the burning of fire, and the evil of it, and the power it has over you. Your eyes have seen the good he has taken from you, and in truth he has opened your eyes. You have seen the garden in which you were with me, and you have also seen the evil that has come over you from Satan. But as to the Almighty he cannot give it to you, nor fulfill his promise to you. He was bitter against you and your descendants, that will come after you." And Elohim withdrew his word from them. 47. Then Adam and Hawwah came into the cave, still trembling because of the fire that had scorched them. So Adam said to Hawwah, "Look, in this world the fire burns our flesh. How will it be when we are dead and Satan shall punish our souls? Is not our deliverance far off unless Elohim comes in his mercy and fulfills his promise to us?" 48. Adam and Eve 1. Then Adam and Hawwah stepped into the cave Baraka themselves for coming into it once more. For they thought that they would never enter it, when they saw the fire around it. But as the sun was setting the fire was still burning and coming closer to Adam and Hawwah in the cave, so that they could not sleep in it. After the sunset they went out of the cave. This was the 47th day after they came out of the garden. Adam and Hawwah then came under the top of hill by the garden to sleep, as they were accustomed. And they stood and prayed Elohim to forgive them their sins, and then fell asleep under the top of the mountain. But Satan, the hater of all that is good, thought to himself, Elohim has promised deliverance to Adam by covenant, and promised that he would deliver him from all the hardships that have befallen him, but Elohim has not promised me by covenant, and will not deliver me out of my hardships. He has promised Adam that he should make him and his descendants live in the reign that I once lived in. I will kill Adam. The earth shall be rid of him. The earth shall be left to me alone. When he is dead he will not have any descendants left to inherit the reign and it will remain my own realm. Elohim will then be wanting me, and he will restore it to me and my host. 48. After this Satan called to his hosts, all of which came to him, and said to him, "Our master, what will you do?" Then he said to them, "This Adam, whom Elohim created out of the dust, is the one who has taken our reign from us. Come, let us gather together and kill him. Hurl a rock at him and at Hawwah, and crush them under it." When Satan's hosts heard these words they came to the part of the mountain where Adam and Hawwah were asleep. 49. 1 Adam and Hawwah. Then Satan and his host took a huge rock, broad and smooth, and without blemish. He thought to himself, if there should be a hole in the rock, when it fell on them the hole in the rock might align over them so they would escape and not die. He then said to his hosts, "Take up this stone and drop it flat on them so that it doesn't roll off them to somewhere else. And when you have hurled it at them get away from there quickly." And they did as he told them. But as the rock fell down from the mountain toward Adam and Hawwah, Elohim commanded the rock to become a covering over them so that it did them no harm. And so it was by Elohim's order. But when the rock fell, the whole earth quaked because of it, and was shaken from the size of the rock. And as it quaked and shook, Adam and Hawwa awoke from sleep and found themselves under a covering of rock. But they didn't know what had happened, because when they fell asleep they were under the sky and not under a covering, and when they saw it they were afraid. Then Adam said to Hawwa, "How has the mountain bent itself and the earth quaked and shaken on our account? And why has this rock spread itself over us like a tent? Does Elohim intend to plague us and to shut us up in this prison? Or will he close the earth over us? He is angry with us for our having come out of the cave without his permission, and for our having done so of our own accord without asking him when we left the cave and came to this place." Then Hawwa said, "Adam, if indeed the earth shook for our sake and this rock formed a tent over us because of our transgression, we will be sorry, because our punishment will be long." 50. Adam and Eve 1. But get up and pray to Elohim to let us know concerning this, and what this rock is that is spread over us like a tent. Then Adam stood up and prayed before hawwah to let him know what had brought about this difficult time. And Adam stood praying like that until the morning. 49. Then the word of Elohim came and said, "O Adam, who counseled you when you came out of the cave to come to this place?" And Adam said to Elohim, "Hawwah, we came to this place because of the heat of the fire that came over us inside the cave." Then hawwah Elohim said to Adam, "Adam, you dread the heat of fire for one night, but how will it be when you live in Gehinnom? But Adam, do not be afraid and do not believe that I have placed this covering of rock over you to plague you. It came from Satan, who had promised you the Almighty in majesty. It is he who threw down this rock to kill you under it, and Hawwa with you, and in this way to prevent you from living on the earth. But, as that rock was falling down on you, I was merciful. I commanded it to form a tent over you, and the rock under you to lower itself. And this sign, O Adam, will happen to my Ben at his coming on earth. Satan will raise the people of the Yahudim to put my Ben to death, and they will lay him in a rock, and seal a large stone over him, and he shall remain within that rock 3 days and 3 nights. But on the 3rd day he shall rise again, and it shall be deliverance to you, O Adam, and to your descendants, so that you will believe in me. But, Adam, I will not bring you from under this rock until 3 days and 3 nights have passed." And Elohim withdrew his word from Adam. But Adam and Hawwa lived under the rock 3 days and 3 nights, as Elohim had told them. 51. 1 Adam and Hawwa. And Elohim did so to them because they had left their cave and had come to this same place without Elohim's permission. But, after 3 days and 3 nights, Elohim created an opening in the covering of rock and allowed them to get out from under it. Their flesh was dried up, and their eyes and hearts were troubled from crying and sorrow. 50. Then Adam and Hawwa went out and came into the cave of treasures and stood praying in it the entire day until the evening. And this took place at the end of the 50 days after they had left the garden. But Adam and Hawwa rose again and prayed to Elohim in the cave the whole of that night, and begged for mercy from him. And when the day dawned, Adam said to Hawwa, "Come. Let us go and do some work for our bodies." So they went out of the cave, and came to the northern border of the garden, and they looked for something to cover their bodies with. But they found nothing, and did not know how to do the work. But their bodies were stained, and they could not speak from cold and heat. Then Adam stood and asked Elohim to show him something with which to cover their bodies. Then came the word of Elohim and said to him, "O Adam, take Hawwa and come to the seashore where you fasted before. There you will find skins of sheep that were left after lions ate the carcasses. Take them and make garments for yourselves, and clothe yourselves with them." 51. When Adam heard these words from Elohim, he took Hawwa and went from the northern side of the garden to the south of it, by the river of water where they once fasted. 52. Adam and Eve 1. But as they were on their way, and before they arrived, Satan, the wicked one, had heard the word of Elohim communing with Adam respecting his covering. It distressed him, and he hurried to the place where the sheepskins were, with the intention of taking them and throwing them into the sea or of burning them so that Adam and Hawwa would not find them. But as he was about to take them, the word of Elohim came from the Shamaim and bound him by the side of those skins until Adam and Hawwa came near him. But as they got closer to him they were afraid of him and of his hideous appearance. Then the word of Elohim came to Adam and Hawwa, and said to them, "This is he who was hidden in the serpent, who deceived you, and stripped from you your garment of light and glory. This is he who promised you majesty and divinity. Where is the beauty that was on him? Where is his divinity? Where is his light? Where is the glory that rested on him? Now his form is hideous. He has become abominable among messengers, and he has come to be called Satan. Adam, he wished to steal from you this earthly garment of sheepskins so that he could destroy it and not let you be covered with it. What is his beauty that you should have followed him? And what have you gained by obeying him? See his evil works and then look at me, your Creator. Look at the good deeds I do for you. I bound him until you came and saw him and his weakness and that no power is left with him. And Elohim released him from his bonds." 52. After this Adam and Hawwa said no more, but cried before Elohim because of their creation, and their bodies that required an earthly covering. Then Adam said to Hawwa, "Hawwa, this is the skin of beasts with which we shall be covered, but when we put it on we shall be wearing a sign of death." 53. 1 Adam and Hawwa. On our bodies, just as the owners of these skins have died and have decomposed, so also shall we die and pass away. Then Adam and Hawwa took the skins and went back to the cave of treasures. When they were in it, they stood and prayed, as was their habit. And they thought how they could make garments of those skins because they had no skill. Then Elohim sent to them his messenger to show them how to accomplish this. And the messenger said to Adam, "Go out and bring some palm thorns." Then Adam went out, and brought some, as the messenger had commanded him. Then the messenger began before them to work the skins, after the manner of one who prepares a shirt. And he took the thorns and stuck them into the skins before their eyes. Then the messenger again stood up and prayed to Elohim that the thorns in those skins should be hidden, so as to be as if it were sewn with one thread. And so it was, by Elohim's order, and they became garments for Adam and Hawwa. And he clothed them with the skins. From that time the nakedness of their bodies was covered from the sight of each other's eyes. And this happened at the end of the 51st day. Then when Adam's and Hawwa's bodies were covered they stood and prayed and sought mercy of Hwhy and forgiveness, and gave him thanks because he had mercy on them and had covered their nakedness. And they did not stop praying the entirety of that night. Then, when the morning dawned at sunrise, they said their prayers, as was their custom, and then went out of the cave. And Adam said to Hawwa, "Since we don't know what there is to the west of this cave, let us go out and see it today." Then they departed and went toward the western border. 54. Adam and Eve 1. 53. They were not very far from the cave when Satan came toward them. He hid himself between them and the cave in the form of 2 ravenous lions that had been 3 days without food. And they came toward Adam and Hawwa as if to break them in pieces and devour them. Then Adam and Hawwa cried out and begged Elohim to deliver them from their paws. Then the word of Elohim came to them and drove away the lions from them. And Elohim said to Adam, "Adam, what do you seek on the western border? And why have you left of your own will the eastern border which was your living place? Now, turn back to your cave and remain in it, so that Satan won't deceive you or achieve his goal to overtake you. In this western border, Adam, there will go from you a descendant that shall replenish it. And they will defile themselves with their sins, and with their yielding to the commands of Satan, and by following his works. Therefore will I bring waters of a flood to cover them and overwhelm them all. But I will deliver what is left of the righteous among them and I will bring them to a distant land, but the land in which you live now shall remain desolate and without one inhabitant in it." After Elohim had spoken to them, they went back to the cave of treasures. But their flesh was dried up, and they were weak from fasting and praying, and from the sorrow they felt at having sinned against Elohim. 54. Then Adam and Hawwa stood up in the cave and prayed the entire night until the morning dawned. And when the sun came up they both went out of the cave. Their minds were wandering from the heaviness of sorrow and they didn't know where they were going. And they walked in that condition to the southern border of the garden. And they began to go up that. 55. 1 Adam and Hawwa. border until they came to the eastern border, which was land's end. And the cherub who guarded the garden was standing at the western gate to guard it from Adam and Hawwa in case they should attempt to suddenly come into the garden. When Adam and Hawwa thought the cherub was not watching, they came to the eastern border of the garden. But as they were standing by the gate, as if they desired to go in, the cherub turned around as if to put them to death according to the order Elohim had given him. And the cherub suddenly came with a flashing sword of fire in his hand. When he saw them, he went toward them to kill them. For he was afraid that Elohim would destroy him if they went into the garden without Elohim's order. And the sword of the cherub seemed to shoot flames a distance away from it. But when he raised it over Adam and Hawwa, the flame of the sword did not flash out at them. Because of this, the cherub thought that Elohim was approving to them and was bringing them back into the garden. And the cherub stood wondering. He could not go up to the Shamayim to ascertain Elohim's order regarding Adam and Hawwa's entering the garden, so continued to stand by them, unable to leave them because he was afraid that if they should enter the garden without permission, Elohim would destroy him. When Adam and Hawwa saw the cherub coming towards them with a flaming sword of fire in his hand, they fell on their faces from fear, and were as dead. Then, the Shamayim and the earth shook, and another cherubim came down from the Shamayim to the cherub who guarded the garden, and saw him amazed and silent. Then, again, other messengers came down close to the place where Adam and Hawwa were. And the cherubim were split between joy and sorrow. 56. Adam and Eve 1. They were joyous because they thought that Elohim was approving to Adam, and wished him to return to the garden and wished to return him to the gladness he once enjoyed. But they were sorrowful over Adam because he was fallen like a dead man, he and Hawwa. And they said to themselves, Adam has not died in this place, but Elohim has put him to death for coming to this place and wishing to enter the garden without his permission. 55. Then the word of Elohim came to Adam and Hawwa, and raised them up from their dead state, saying to them, Why did you come up here? Do you intend to go into the garden from which I brought you out? You cannot return today, but only when the covenant I have made with you is fulfilled. Then Adam, when he heard the word of Elohim, and the fluttering of the messengers, which he only heard and did not see, he and Hawwa cried and said to the messengers, O Ruahoth, who wait on Elohim, look at me and at my inability to see you. When I was in my former bright nature I could see you. I sang praises as you do, and my heart was far above you. But now that I have transgressed, that bright nature is gone from me, and I have come to this miserable state in which I cannot see you. You do not serve me like you used to do, for my flesh has become like that of the animals. O messengers of Elohim, ask Elohim to restore me to the state I was in formerly, and ask him to rescue me from this misery, and to remove the sentence of death he passed on me for having trespassed against him. Ask him, as I ask him to do these things. Then, when the messengers heard these words, they all grieved over him and cursed Satan who had misled Adam until he came from the garden to misery, and from life to death, and from peace to distress, and from gladness to a strange land. 57. 1 Adam and Hawwa. Then the messengers said to Adam, You obeyed Satan and ignored the word of Elohim who created you. You believed that Satan would fulfill all he had promised you. But now, Adam, we will make known to you what came over us through him, before his fall from the Shamayim. He gathered together his hosts and deceived them, promising to give them a great rain, a divine nature, and other promises he made them. His hosts believed that his word was true, so they followed him, and renounced the glory of Elohim. He then ordered us, and some obeyed and under his command, and accepted his empty promises. But we would not obey, and we did not take his orders. Then, after he had fought with Elohim and had dealt disrespectfully with him, he gathered together his hosts and made war with us. And if it had not been for Elohim's strength that was with us, we could not have prevailed against him to hurl him from the Shamayim. But when he fell from among us, there was great joy in the Shamayim because of his descent from us. If he had remained in the Shamayim, nothing, not even one messenger, would have remained in it. But Elohim in his mercy drove him from among us to this dark earth, because he had become darkness itself and a performer of unrighteousness. And Adam, he has continued to make war against you until he tricked you and made you come out of the garden to this strange land, where all these trials have come to you. And death, which Elohim brought to him, he has also brought to you because you obeyed him and sinned against Elohim." Then all the messengers rejoiced and praised Elohim and asked him not to destroy Adam for his having sought to enter the garden at this time, but to bear with him until the fulfillment of the promise, and to help him in this world until he was free from Satan's hand. 58. Adam and Eve 1. 56. Then the word of Elohim came to Adam, and said to him, "Adam, look at that garden of joy and at this earth of toil, and see, the garden is full of messengers, but look at yourself alone on this earth with Satan whom you obeyed. If you had submitted and been obedient to me and had kept my word, you would be with my messengers in my garden. But when you sinned and obeyed Satan, you became his guests among his messengers, that are full of wickedness, and you came to this earth that produces thorns and thistles for you. O Adam, ask the one who deceived you to give you the divine nature he promised you, or to make you a garden as I had made for you, or to fill you with that same bright nature with which I had filled you. Ask him to make you a body like the one I made you, or to give you a day of rest as I gave you, or to create within you a wise soul, as I created for you, or to take you from here to some other earth than this one which I gave you. But, Adam, he will not fulfill even one of the things he told you. Acknowledge my favor toward you, and my mercy on you, my creature. Acknowledge that I have not shown vengeance on you for your transgression against me, but in my pity for you I have promised you that at the end of the great 5.5 days I will come and save you." Then Elohim said again to Adam and Hawwah, "Get up, go down from here before the cherub with a sword of fire in his hand destroys you." But Adam's heart was comforted by Elohim's words to him, and he worshipped before him. And Elohim commanded his messengers to escort Adam and Hawwah to the cave with joy instead of the fear that had come over them. Then the messengers took up Adam and Hawwah and brought them down the mountain by the garden. 59. 1 Adam and Hawwah. With songs and praises and hymns until they arrived at the cave. There the messengers began to comfort and to strengthen them, and then departed from them towards the Shamium to their Creator, who had sent them. But after the messengers had departed from Adam and Hawwah, Satan came with shamefacedness and stood at the entrance of the cave in which were Adam and Hawwah. He then called to Adam, and said, "O Adam, come, let me speak to you." Then Adam came out of the cave, thinking he was one of Elohim's messengers that had come to give him some good counsel. 57. But when Adam came out and saw his hideous figure he was afraid of him, and said to him, "Who are you?" Then Satan answered and said to him, "It is I, who hid myself within the serpent, and who spoke to Hawwah, and who enticed her until she obeyed my command. I am he who, using my deceitful speech, sent her to deceive you until you both ate of the fruit of the tree and rejected the command of Elohim." But when Adam heard these words from him, he said to him, "Can you make me a garden as Elohim made for me? Or can you clothe me in the same bright nature in which Elohim had clothed me? Where is the divine nature you promised to give me? Where is that clever speech of yours that you had with us at first, when we were in the garden?" Then Satan said to Adam, "Do you think that when I have promised someone something that I would actually deliver it to him or fulfill my word? Of course not. I myself have no hope of obtaining what I promised. Therefore I fell, and I made you fall for the same reason that I myself fell. Whoever accepts my counsel, falls. But now, O Adam, because you fell you are under my rule and I am sovereign over you because you." 60. Adam and Eve 1. Have obeyed me and have sinned against your Elohim. There will be no deliverance from my hands until the day promised you by your Elohim. Again he said, "Because we do not know the day agreed on with you by your Elohim, nor the hour in which you shall be delivered, we will multiply wars and murders on you and your descendants after you. This is our will and our good pleasure that we may not leave one of the sons of men to inherit our place in the Shamium. Our home, Adam, is in burning fire and we will not stop our evil doing even a single day nor even a single hour. And I, O Adam, shall set you on fire when you come into the cave to live there." When Adam heard these words he cried and mourned and said to Hawwah, "Did you hear what he said? He said that he would not fulfill any of what he promised you in the garden. Did he really, at that time, become sovereign over us? We will ask Elohim, who created us, to deliver us out of his hands." 58. Then Adam and Hawwah spread their hands before Elohim, praying and begging him to drive Satan away from them so that he could not harm them or force them to deny Elohim. Then, suddenly, Elohim sent to them his messenger who drove Satan away from them. This happened about sunset on the 53rd day after they had come out of the garden. Then Adam and Hawwah went into the cave, and stood up and lowered their faces to the ground to pray to Elohim. But before they prayed, Adam said to Hawwah, "Look, you have seen what temptations have befallen us in this land. Come, let us get up and ask Elohim to forgive us the sins we have committed, and we will not come out until the end of the day before the 40th day. And if we die in here, he will save us." 61. 1 Adam and Hawwah. Then Adam and Hawwah got up and joined together in entreating Elohim. They continued praying like this in the cave and did not come out of it in the night or day, until their prayers went up out of their mouths like a flame of fire. 59. But Satan, the hater of all that is good, did not allow them to finish their prayers. He called to his hosts and they all came. Then he said to them, "Since Adam and Hawwah, whom we deceived, have agreed together to pray to Elohim night and day, and to beg him to deliver them, and since they will not come out of the cave until the end of the 40th day, and since they will continue their prayers as they have both agreed to do, that he will deliver them out of our hands and restore them to their former state, let us see what we shall do to them." And his host said to him, "Power is yours, our master, to do what you command." Then Satan, great in wickedness, took his hosts and came into the cave on the 30th night of the 40-day period, and he beat Adam and Hawwah until he thought they were dead, and he left them as dead. Then the word of Elohim came to Adam and Hawwah and raised them from their suffering, and Elohim said to Adam, "Be strong, and do not be afraid of him who has just come to you." But Adam cried and said, "Where were you, my Elohim, that they should punish me with such blows, and that this suffering should come over me and over Hawwah, your handmaiden?" Then Elohim said to him, "Adam, see, he is master of all you have, he who said he would give you divinity. Where is this love for you? And where is the gift he promised? Did it please him just once, Adam, to come to you, comfort you, strengthen you, rejoice with you, or send his hosts to protect you, because you have obeyed him and have obeyed his counsel and have followed his commandment and transgressed mine?" 62. Adam and Eve 1. Then Adam cried before Hawwah, and said, "Hawwah, because I transgressed a little, you have severely punished me in return. I ask you to deliver me out of his hands, or at least have pity on me and take my soul out of my body now in this strange land." Then Elohim said to Adam, "If only there had been this moaning and praying before you transgressed, you would have rest from the trouble in which you are now." But Elohim had patience with Adam, and let him and Hawwah remain in the cave until they had fulfilled the 40 days. But the strength and flesh withered on Adam and Hawwah from fasting and praying, from hunger and thirst, because they had not tasted either food or drink since they left the garden. And their bodies functioned erratically because they had no strength left to continue in prayer from hunger until the end of the next day to the 40th. They were fallen down in the cave, yet what speech escaped from their mouths was only in praises.